Can you hear me? Welcome! Again, my name is, did I hit it off? Okay, Cecilia Mace. I'm the marketing director of the Original Oyster House Restaurants. What a privilege it is to co-host tonight's dinner. Thank you everyone on the retreat planning committee. We were thrilled when Patty Culp, Angie Baggett, and Shannon Brannon asked us to participate in your first night here. We have Terry Winland, Visitor Center Manager with the Huntsville Convention and Visitors Bureau, who has generously co-sponsored the banquet with us tonight. You want to stand up, Terry? Woo! Rebecca Walter, our banquet room manager. Rebecca, will you wave at everybody? We'll guide you through tonight's festivities. This is our banquet room, which hosts notable events including bridal rehearsal dinners, reunions, holiday celebrations, retreats, corporate presentations. It seats 30 to 100 guests. The waterfront view overlooks the Delta, where 5 rivers merge. The Mobile-Tensol Delta is the most biologically diverse regions in the U.S. It is the largest river delta and wetland in Alabama and is home to an abundance of species. Most guests, however, like spotting alligators and our returning ospreys who made their home in our front parking lot. We are on a tight schedule, so I want to recognize a few supporters and let you know what's ahead. We have Haley Hill. Haley, please stand up. Publisher of Access Magazine. Did you stand up? She has sponsored table setting design with Soho Rentals and has knocked it out of the park. Don't you agree? Absolutely stunning. Haley has also sponsored Layla Lampert. Layla, where are you? Layla is our photographer tonight. Haley plans to publish photos from tonight's event in an upcoming issue, actually the November issue of Access Magazine. So this isn't like Vegas. It's getting published.
Follow on Facebook.
Jim Parker, Jim, wave, is here tonight with Power Productions to make sure everything runs smoothly. Sermon Farms kindly donated cotton and sunflowers. I want to recognize our servers. If y'all could come out here, because this is the face of our hospitality. Would you all come out real quick? We have Meta Cooks, Veronica Romero, Evan Jackson. And I just want to say one thing about Rufus Young. I think Rufus was probably the youngest recipient of the Spirit Award at the Stars of the Industry. It's the Alabama Restaurant Hospitality Association in the state. He's amazing. They all are. At 8:20, Terry will announce door prizes, which actually, door prize winners. We've changed that because we have a technical difficulty. So what we're going to do instead is trivia. Yes, trivia. I'll tell you that in a minute. The door prize sponsors include Wind Creek Casino, iHeartMedia, OA Parks and Resorts, and Golf Quest, with prizes listed on the back of your menus. Lastly, I want to point out the oyster shells, which were decoupaged by Anna Gecke, our 2022 scholarship winner and intern, who was unable to attend tonight. She made one for each of you, so you could have a keepsake of the incredible oyster shell recycling and gardening program you are about to discover. So just an FYI, I gotta figure out trivia questions from the upcoming video that we are presenting. I will play a 5-minute video as our educational portion of this evening, after which we will begin dinner. Thank you so much. All right, can I move this off? Sorry about that. Just make sure it's loud enough.
Just a short while ago, you had the ribbon cutting for the oyster shell recycling program that you have. Unbelievable program. Mark, tell the folks all about it.
Well, it's actually one of our lead programs from the Alabama Coastal Foundation, but only through partnerships like great restaurants like the original Oyster House. In essence, what it is, we have a grant to educate the restaurants that used to throw those oyster shells away, but we tell them, hey, that's a really valuable natural resource. Give them to us. We collect them Monday, Wednesday, Friday, every week, and then get them back into the water where more oysters like to grow.
Joe, I'm sure being the original Oyster House, when you heard about an oyster shell recycling program, you definitely wanted to jump on board right away.
It was a natural fit and the right thing to do.
Yeah, natural fit, right thing to do. And Mark, there are huge benefits to our environment. Tell the folks a little bit about that.
Well, the oyster industry is tremendous. About 40% of the seafood for the United States comes from the Gulf of Mexico. So it's a really important part of our economy. And but the oysters are just fantastic. They're a great food source, as well as they filter water. They provide habitat for other shellfish and other finfish, and they protect from shorelines from eroding. So they are a really wonderful resource. And the more shells that customers buy from these restaurants, the more shells we can get back in the water. And that's the favorite place for new shells to grow, is on the outside of old shells.
Speaking of that, you were giving me some interesting facts before this started about how many shells you've recovered so far and all that information. Tell the folks about that.
Well, at that ribbon cutting that we did earlier, we actually had 16 restaurants participate. We did our first phase up on the causeway. By the end of 2017, we're projecting 2.7 million shells will have been saved from the landfills. That's about 7 acres worth. We did a calculation, it's about 60 elephants worth of weight for shells.
That's always a good measurement. How many elephants does that make up? So you can see huge impact to the Gulf Coast. So Joe, we want to encourage people to come here and eat those oysters because it's going back into the
Fire grilled oyster!
Known for hand-shocked, raw, fire-grilled, and baked oysters, the original Oyster House is legendary for fresh Gulf seafood, southern hospitality, and a spectacular waterfront view. Behind the scenes, this restaurant's sustainable practices has taken oysters out of the kitchen to help ensure their future. In its 5th year, the original Oyster House became one of the only local restaurants to oyster garden, or grow stocker oysters for reef restoration. Growing oysters, as well as recycling oyster shells to help restore the reef, is a champion strategy in preserving this culinary masterpiece. Oyster garden volunteers like me grow oysters in special cages that hang from piers from June to November. On average, each volunteer grows 1,000 or more oysters per season. There's more to it than I anticipated, as each week a different strategy of cleaning ensued, plus the cages got heavier as the oysters grew. And the battle of removing predators became my nemesis. But all the hard work pays off when your oysters have grown up and can carry out such an important job, which is to restore the reef. Knowing they are never to be eaten was a huge bonus. The oysters are collected in November and planted on restoration reefs in Mobile Bay and the Mississippi Sound. More than 85% of the oyster reefs have been lost globally. An oyster reef provides an essential habitat for all kinds of marine and plant life, and a healthier oyster population improves the quality of water, which enhances commercial and recreational fishing and ecotourism. This education and research program has planted more than 1.25 million oysters since it began in 2001. It equates to 61.6 acres. This season, Little Lagoon, where we garden, produced over 57,000 oysters with a mean height of 2 inches from 168 cages. This is enough oysters to restore almost 3 acres in Mobile Bay. Children too can get involved, become oyster trailblazers, and earn an oyster shell recycling tattoo. All they have to do is answer 5 true or false questions about oyster facts that they learned from our kids menu. From recycling shells to help restore the reef to giving back to the community, the original Oyster House is making more than great food. They're making a difference. So next time you're in Gulf Shores or cutting across the Mobile Causeway, be sure to stop by for fresh Gulf seafood complete with a waterfront view at the original Oyster House. And you too can become an oyster trailblazer.